So I've been reselling forever. So one of the things about reselling is back in the day, in the late 90s, there were a lot of different things you could do in retail stores that you can't do now. One of them is a lot of these stores, they didn't really have a return policy. So you could pretty much return whatever you wanted and no one cared. There was no tracking system. They didn't have like a POS system or anything. So that's why, don't get me wrong, everyone abused the hell out of it. I did too when I was younger. So here's a story of one of the things I did. So there was this place in the mall called FYE, For Your Entertainment. I think it still exists, maybe under a different name now, but it was like the mall store that sold like video games and CDs and DVDs and whatever. So I went there, and I don't even know why I thought to do this, but I went and I looked at all the video games and I wrote down the price of every single video game. Then I went to Toys R Us and I looked and compared to find where was the biggest delta between the cost of a game at Toys R Us versus the cost of a game at FYE. And I found it. It was N64's South Park Chef's Love Shack. It was $29.99, $30 at Toys R Us. It was $69.99, $70 at FYE. So here was the plan. Here's what I did. I would go to Toys R Us and I would buy 4 of the Chef's Love Shack, $120. Then I would return them over to FYE for $280 of store credit. But I'd swap it out and get like a video game system. So now I basically spent $120 at Toys R Us to get a video game system at FYE. So then I would take that video game system at FYE, return it back at Toys R Us, and now I just went and quickly in like less than an hour from having $120 to having $280 of credit at Toys R Us. And then I did it a million times. I ended up with a ton of video game systems, stuff that was sold on eBay, stuff that was given as gifts, stuff that I kept personally. But yeah, I had like every N64 game, I had every system, I had everything because of doing this trade. And it ended up being at one point, I had so much money in credits that I just stopped having to ever buy anything. I would just go to either FYE or Toys R Us because I would then have so much credits to both stores that worked out pretty well. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people that did cool return things back in the day. I know I'm going to get a lot of crap. People are going to be like, oh, that's why we can't do returns anymore. Yeah, that's probably accurate, but I wasn't the only one doing it. A million other people were doing it. But yeah, do you have a story like that? I'm sure you do. Be honest about it. What was something you did as a kid that as an adult, you would never do again?